Hi.
What's up, man? Guys.
Welcome again to another engaging episode of Adulting Conversations. I am Katunge Jessie.
And I am Caleb Jesse. So today we're going to be talking about something very interesting called conflict
Resolution.
Exactly. Hapo kwanza kwa resolution sana.
Yes.
And how it affects and also how it does affect the relationship, as well as how it creates a bond in the relationship for longevity. Those people who are in marriages for more than 2, 3, 4 decades and still going strong, it has, well, a lot to do with their passion and affection for each other, but most importantly has to do with how they resolve certain conflicts that they may have. And some can be very, very intense for not just the sake of the relationship, but because of the companionship that they have. I can give you a very interesting example. Ukianza kujijua, or when you finally decide you have a crush on someone and you find yourself getting into a lot of relationship in and out, then you have a fight, but then you're like, I'm still young, I can't just get into another relationship.
There are many fish in the sea.
There, you know what? Yeah, fish,
there are many
birds,
trees in the
all
forest.
creatures are there. But as you grow older, you start to realize that there are certain aspects of this human being that have become some of your core memories. And it's very difficult to let go of those kind of things. So you find that unaweza jamishwa na hata msi ajui imekujamisha, ama umejamiana but no one has the courage to admit that they are wrong. Some would do it this way. They would resolve it in this sense. They would use the we feature. That we have done things to each other that are not quite right, you know? So it doesn't look like, because some people just don't know how to apologize. Like, I apologize to you for this is what has happened. And so they use the we factor, right? Some would use signs like, here, I bought you something. That's it. You should take it as sorry.
Take it as my apology.
Take it as my apology. But the most, I feel, with my experience, the most important way to resolve conflict is through communication. Because it's the most effective way to resolve most conflicts. Because it's not going to be rainbows and sunsets every single time. You're going to have a storm. So how will you deal with that? And will you just, because ego cuts across the board.
It does.
It is not
It's not just a guy thing.
It is not just a guy thing.
Yeah, girls
but
have ego too.
it is the most loudest.
True.
Yes.
True.
But women have ego.
They do.
I have encountered a lot of my boys keep telling me that it's challenging. But even with that, how important, what value is there in that relationship for you to actually figure out a way to resolve the conflict? Because that is the most important thing in the relationships.
Yeah.
Right? How do you balance it out?
I think just before I even get into how to balancing it out, I think there's a narrative that a lot of people hear actually in premarital counseling or from relatives and friends. When someone is seeking to, I'd like to get married, people will celebrate, yay, this is such a fantastic thing. But now when you sit and try and ask for advice on marriage, one of the things that I keep hearing over and over again that seems to be emphasized is how hard marriage is. And I'd like to say that there are challenges that a marriage can face. You can't see 3 feet behind you, like things are so thick. But that's not a constant. I think people need to know that that is not marriage is not consistently hard.
It's actually not hard. It's just situations
can present
yes
challenges to the relationship. And so when conflict arises, and the reason why conflict arises is there's so many reasons. One, you're two different people. You've been brought up in completely different backgrounds. You might have quite some things in common, but your world perspective is also different. You have different personalities. Your characters, as you are, your character traits are different. And so those are the things that now might begin to bring conflict. And by conflict, we're not talking about petty arguments, even if that can escalate, actually. The idea that because we have all these lovey-dovey feelings, we will never fight. And we already talked about the relational graph. There's that honeymoon phase where when you get into the relationship, you're so excited about this person. It's so easy to, say sorry or, avoid hurting your partner. And in that happy phase, it's easy. It's easy. But when reality starts to check in and you begin to be, let me not call it reality check, but it's really you begin to relax more into the relationship, and therefore more and more of yourself gets revealed to the other person. You now begin to see nitty-gritties about this person. Things that are odd or awkward or sometimes even offensive. And especially when you start to live together, that is when you really feel it, because I have a certain way of doing things. Jesse has a certain way of doing things. I remember our first year, one of the things we were always we'd have small tips about had to do with stuff in the house, just in the home. Jesse's method of cleaning and tidying up is not mine whatsoever. And then he moves at lightning speed. Now, I don't move at lightning speed. I don't move that fast. And so because of how fast he moved, I would always be doubtful, like, is it really clean? So I'd be the one who's coming, to double check if the cups are clean. I'm the one who's swiping a finger on a counter, on the surface of somewhere, because I'm like, is this thing really clean? You know what I mean? And that irritated him, because like, come on, I cleaned it. Like, why am I being graded every 2 moments? And it was in everything. It was the cleaning, it was the cooking, it was the arranging. And one day we had to draw a truce, and he was like, listen, I never say anything when you are cleaning or cooking or whatever. I never say anything, with the exception of maybe a commentary on how slow I move, because I really do. Like, my speed is just not his. I don't move like slow like a slug, but I'm just saying I don't move at that hyper speed.
Hypersonic.
I don't move at hyper speed. But with the exception of that, like, he wouldn't comment on, have the dishes been cleaned properly? Has the food been, you know what I mean? Like, those are not things that he'd say. And I realized I was actually being very unfair to him, 1, and 2, not trusting that he's capable. And that's unfair, because this is someone that you've chosen to live with. So
Plus, I was doing it quite fine before you showed up.
Right?
Like, I was doing it quite well.
I know. Whenever I'd visit him, his house was never messy.
Always
it was always tidy. It was
always
clean. But I think it's that thing of now you're living together and you see that process and you're like, oh my goodness, you know what I mean? I used to think like he'll take his time, blah, blah, blah. But it's like a switch goes off in his head, and before you breathe in and out, the thing is done, And that is also a factor of his upbringing and his family life before he moved out and lived on his own. That's the training that he received. His mom moves quite fast through stuff.
Quite fast.
So that's kind of the reason that's the pace that he was set at. Whereas for me, being the last of my parents' children, my siblings had great doubt in my abilities. And I often found my sister, love her to bits and bobs, but the girl has OCD, like mad OCD. So, of course, my thing was never clean enough. It was never organized enough. And so I found myself slowing down so that I can be more meticulous, so that I don't get that criticism. And so for so many years, that has been my thing. Just do it slowly and carefully so that nobody comes and tells you to repeat the thing or you haven't done it well enough.
Yeah.
And so you can see, by virtue of our two different contexts of upbringing, the job is actually getting done, but it's getting done so differently. And so if I'm forever on Jesse's case about you're moving too fast, is it clean enough? Or he's forever on my case, or you're not moving fast enough, then we begin to irritate each other. And that irritation slowly becomes frustration. It slowly becomes, I don't want to hear what you have to say. And it becomes, if I don't voice it, if I don't say, hey, get off my back, it ends up becoming resentment. And resentment is conflict. And there is no way a relationship will be a joyful and happy and peaceful place to be if someone secretly resents the other. And that is why communication and speaking up, using words.
Use your words.
Yes, use all the words that you know, because think about it. You have so many words when you're telling a story.
Yeah.
You have so many words when you're just in a casual conversation with somebody. But when conflict arises, suddenly you have no words. Why is that? I think we haven't really been trained to
think logically when in situations that
when there's
are
some
causing
negativity around.
elevated emotions.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But I think we've also not been taught, and I think this is especially true for men, in the sense that men are, from a very young age, never encouraged to feel their feelings. It's always, don't cry, you're tough, be strong, don't do, you know,
Be a man.
Yeah, and being a man, and I'd just like to just chime in here. There's a speech that an author, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, was speaking about, and she mentioned this, and I thought this is actually such a truth that people need to really hear more of. That by insisting that men be men, by not expressing that emotional side of themselves, we actually limit their own experience of, they can't experience the full range of their humanity, because we cut off a very essential part of their existence in that way. And I think when it comes now to conflict, the man is so limited because he's feeling things.
Yeah.
But he's never been raised or taught to express these feelings in any particular way. Women, we have words for all our feelings.
For all your days.
Like we have degrees of anger, and each degree has a different word. You know, we have degrees of joy, and each degree has a word. You know what I mean? But guys don't have that. And so this person could be frustrated, but he just sums it up as, I'm angry. But it's actually not anger, it's frustration.
Could be frustration.
You know, it could be, I'm too tired to think, you know.
Muniache, wachini nitulie. Pumua, wacha nipumue tu.
You know, like that's what he needs. But because nobody's giving him that space, that quickly becomes irritation. And then he can't say, I'm irritated. It's back to anger. So they only have like two or three emotions they can actually name clearly, you know. And because of that, then we women who have a plethora of words to use are unable to understand our men because his vocabulary is limited. We have a very expansive vocabulary. And so when it comes to conflict resolution, sometimes the tension is not that I don't know what I'm feeling or I don't know what I want to communicate to you, but I don't have enough range in vocabulary to express it in a way that you, my person, would understand.
And just to add on that, this guy called Simon Sinek, he's an author of several books, one including Start With Why, and very and various other books. And he said this in a podcast that I watched, that communicating your frustration to your partner authentically will be hard better than you chat GPT it. Because if you chat GPT your emotions and give your prompting, when you prompt a response to ChatGPT for an answer to a situation, a human situation you're dealing with, and she asks, was this ChatGPT or not? She will be even more frustrated at you, because ChatGPT is not giving you, does not know your person as well as you do.
Okay, first of all things, I'm just gonna put a pin in this whole conversation. Who is ChatGPTing their feelings? Like this is shocking
It's
to
the
me. Like
21st
I wish
century.
you guys could see the look on my
Yeah.
face. Like
That's
I'm so mystified.
it's,
Like
yeah, it's very
someone,
challenging.
oh my God.
Yeah,
Okay.
literally, like that's been,
So that adds an even,
it adds an even more complex.
it adds another layer to the complexity,
Yes,
because someone
yes.
cannot express themselves and they're asking a non-human interface to help
How
them translate
to-
what they're
yes.
feeling. And of course, it has no feelings.
It
So what
has
is
no
it going? It
feelings,
just
so
has.
it'll just
It
give
just
you a
has
prompt.
language.
It
Yeah.
has language.
Oh, that is horrible. That is
So
so horrible. Okay, people.
in a sense, if you have conflict, how about seeking advice on how to resolve conflict from another human being?
Human being, yeah, absolutely.
Because they will give you a human perspective.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think that is what I was trying to say is that, because on one hand, men don't have vocabulary around the full range of their emotions because of their limited experience in experiencing their full humanity.
Correction, few men, some men.
Okay. I stand corrected. I was gonna get to that.
Okay.
But generally, I'm using this as just a generalization. It takes very deliberate effort for somebody to begin to try and understand their own emotions and try to express their emotions clearly to their person. And one of the ways in which one can do that actually is listening to what your person is saying. If I say, I don't understand what you mean, you need to, rather than repeat what you just said. I didn't say I didn't hear you. I said I don't understand. Like the words that came out of your mouth.
Incarnating.
The words that came out of your mouth, I understand them grammatically. You know what I mean? But the thought that you're expressing using those words is what is not very clear in my understanding. And so expand your vocabulary. One way to expand vocabulary, of course, is by reading. All my writer and reader people out there, you know that. You learn new words and you learn new ways of expressing yourself. And because, well, again, gosh, ChatGPT, you're ruining some of our lives. Because a majority of books throughout the history of mankind have been written by another human being.
Yeah.
So if it's a story of fiction, it's expressing the human experience. So you could also learn, even from just reading fiction, different ways of expressing a thought, an idea. Because a writer could write a feeling that you've had, but not been able to express using words like, yes, that's the thing.
That's what I've been trying to say.
That's what I've been trying to say. Exactly. And sometimes, like Jesse's saying, use another human being, because sometimes it could also be a podcast or something that you hear and someone uses the words to express the thing that you wanted to say. So allow yourself that window to learn. So conflict is inevitable because of our differences, but conflict is not the end. Whereas we live in a generation where it's cancel culture, getting rid of negative energy. If so and so doesn't agree with me, or
Mwache.
Yeah, mwache. And everything about all our discussions has become so black and white that we've missed out that life is not just black and white. There's so many other hues of gray in between. There's nuances. There's things that you have to look at someone's face when they're saying it to understand. How many disagreements have happened over our WhatsApp chat? How many breakups have happened? All because I read what you wrote and I understood it in a particular way.
Yeah.
I didn't hear the tone of your voice.
Yes.
I didn't see the expression on your face. Like we could have been having a disagreement and maybe you meant that as a point of humor. If we had done it in person, I would have seen the expression on your face. I would have heard the hint of humor in your voice, and I would have probably eased up and go like, okay, fine. You know what I mean? Like it would have probably eased the tension some. But because we're so busy chatting, you forget the gray areas and the nuances of our existence, which cannot be put into words. Like you have to see it and to hear it to understand. This is why ChatGPT is not useful for anybody's relationship.
It's not a relationship-based application.
It cannot see, it cannot hear, it doesn't know nuance. It just knows facts and data. And just to move away from picking on ChatGPT, because I'm sure it's being picked on all over the world on different aspects. But here we're here to discuss then sana the resolution aspect of conflict. How do we get to a point where we can have resolution when we disagree? I think the fundamental is you have to fight for that relationship. You have to be willing to say that the purpose of resolution, first, let's just make it clear. The purpose of resolution is not who's right and who's wrong. It's not who won the fight this time. We're not here about points, because if you're competitively, there's a healthy competition in a relationship that motivates the other person to do better. For example, some time back, after we had our second child, I put on like a ton of weight. And a ton of weight for me was because I put on almost 20 kilos during and just after the pregnancy. Like I put on about 20 kilos to a weight that my body had never been even at its heaviest. And the heaviest I had ever been was actually in my teens. Prior to that, it had been in my teens. And even after our first girl, I didn't put on that much weight. But this one, I did like 20. Like, wow, it was so huge. With our first, I put on just 9 kilos, which was manageable. But at a point, my joints started to hurt, and it was very frustrating just moving about. It became difficult because my body is trying to handle something it's never handled before. So I got into an exercise routine, because for me, the purpose of the exercise routine was to just stop my body from hurting. So I knew I had to lose some weight, but in the process, it challenged Jesse, who didn't have a regular kind of routine for working out. Like he'd do it, but his life is also so busy. So even the moments to actually find time to work out were very limited. And so the app that I was using would take only about maybe 10 minutes or so. And it was like one of these, what are they called? HIIT workouts. So it's like really intense, but for a really short time. So you're done before, so it was time saving also.
You get in your numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then because of what I was doing, he found a way out of, I need to work out consistently because of the app that I was using. And then, because I worked out more regularly, he's like, man, like you're so regular. So there was that challenge, almost that competition.
Healthy competition.
Yeah, that makes someone become better, that makes someone do things better. That is a competition that a relationship needs. The one that actually challenges someone to grow and do better, and to learn new things. But there's a competition where you're earning points, and that creates, actually, in and of itself, eventually becomes a source of conflict.
Yeah.
So the purpose of resolving is so that there can be peace and growth and continuity in the relationship.
Yeah.
And in order for that to happen, the first thing has to do with, I want peace and I want growth and I want continuity in this relationship. But in order to do that, the next thing has to be, you have to speak the truth.
Mm.
You have to be honest because there's no conflict without,
Yeah.
it takes two or more for a conflict to happen.
It also takes the same two to resolve one.
It also takes all the parties involved to come together with a mind to say, let's make this end. But the only way to make it end is by each side acknowledging their contribution to the conflict. Sometimes in a conflict, let's talk about percentages. So sometimes in a conflict, someone will contribute 60% and the other will be 40%. It's never always 50-50. Someone could have just been chilling. And then their person walks into the house. And the person says something that irritates this other person. Now, me, I wasn't meaning to be irritating. I just made a comment as I was passing. I wasn't trying to be hurtful or anything. But then I take that thing so deep that I start something. Like we were saying in a previous podcast, some people just want to start something. And because we've been too quiet, let's look for a fight to have, you know. For some people, it's not intentional, but that small thing, then I get very irritated and I overreact. And the person like, whoa, like I didn't even mean it that way. You know what I mean? Like that's not what I meant. And so in that case, someone has probably even contributed 100% to the conflict because they started it. You know what I mean? And so it's important for us to come and say, okay, listen, when you said this, I got irritated because, and whatever irritated you was probably not even coming from the person who said the thing. It was probably from a previous thought you were having, or maybe from the day that you had, or maybe 2 weeks ago someone said something like that and it irritated you and now you've been triggered. You know what I mean? Like you have to do an honest self-assessment and say, why did I react like this?
Where is the source?
What is the source of my upsettedness? Is it coming from the person who I'm claiming upset me? Or is it something that's coming from within me that has gotten triggered? And when you know that, then you can say, this is what had happened. And then this other person can now come and say, okay, when I said this and then you reacted like that, I felt all defensive. And so I came at you. And so sometimes where the conflicts, what could have triggered the conflict can be a very small trigger, but when you look at what the conflict was actually about, the two are probably not even connected. It's just that you set me off and there's something on my mind. And this is why it's important to consistently communicate, especially about these small irritations, because if you don't, and then you resent this person, even things that usually would not irritate you will irritate you because you're harboring resentment against this person about something that they did 2 weeks ago. Like just say, okay, fine. I know it's probably long overdue, but this thing happened 2 weeks ago when this and this and this was happening. Now, at that point, you might not get an apology or whatever because the case is not active. Let's say it's a cold case, you know what I mean? But you just want that sense of justice for you've understood where I've come from. And if you're coming into conflict resolution not to score points, then you actually listen to each other better. And that gives room for empathy, for compassion, for sympathy. It also creates a big window for understanding your person better. Again, remember, as life is going on, we are all changing. We're all being influenced by different things, and we're not the same people we were 5 years ago. So as we change, what could have irritated you 5 years ago probably doesn't irritate now. Or 5 years ago, it didn't matter, but now it does. When you are resolving conflict in a way of let's speak the truth to one another because we like each other and want to remain in this relationship, the second thing that happens is that you have to respect your person. It's so
easy to
find out what it means to me. But that's the point, is that you don't pick on something that has nothing to do with what the issue is. And this is why it's important.
You don't pick on the person.
In general. Don't pick on that.
You address
the issue. Yeah. And it's important to learn how to sift through your emotions so that you say, what is actually, because this is what I strongly believe. I believe that emotions are like road signs on the journey of life. They're the signs that tell us things are good and going well, and there are signs that tell us, ni kubaya, you know. And those things now should ask us, you should put us in a position where, in the case of conflict, things are not going good. To ask, why is it? You know what I mean? If your engine light comes on, for those who drive, if your engine light comes on, you have to stop
unceremoniously.
Unceremoniously, you have to ask, what is triggering that? And then you either take the car to a mechanic or stop by a gas station, pop the hood and see what is what. You understand? So that's exactly what should happen when there's conflict. That's just, hey, a light has come on. Let's investigate what this light is. And so it's important to come to conflict resolution calm, with a promise to yourself first. I will not insult this person. I will try and hear them out even when they are speaking, maybe, the emotions are beginning to roil again. I will try and remain calm on my part, so that, again, I sift through their emotions and listen to what are they saying. Because when someone is emotional, again, they might say the same thing over and over and over. So the question is, can you hear what it is that they're saying? And say, okay, I understand that, or also I don't. I don't understand why this thing irritated you, And that is not a reason to say you don't care about me. It is a point to say, wait, you actually don't understand. Let me help you understand. And in the process of trying to help them understand, even you need to say, I must remain calm so that I speak clearly so that this person can understand. So the more you do that, and the more you enter with truth and you enter with respect, some conflicts might not resolve overnight. We had mentioned this in a different podcast about sometimes you also gotta let conflict breathe. Sometimes you reach a stalemate where we are clearly just not understanding each other.
Hence the nothing stage, whereby you're just doing nothing.
Yeah, you're just letting it simmer.
You're just letting it
not simmer, but you're just letting it be.
You're letting it be so that it can disappear on its own, which it does, because you find that even the no communication and just having like a warm body within the house gives time for a reset.
And also, when the emotions are heightened, or when there seems to be reached a stalemate, taking a beat and taking a step back allows the mind and the emotions to rest. And then tomorrow, maybe you might have a fresher approach, a clearer understanding of, okay, actually what I had meant to say yesterday was, but in the moment when we're going at it, that thought couldn't come because the emotions are so intense. And so it gives room also for the emotions to calm down, for the mind to calm down, for the body to calm down, so that you say, actually, this is what the issue was. There are times when Jesse and I have had a conflict, a disagreement, and we let it just be, and we put a pin in it. And then I go like, you know what? I'm trying to express myself, and I feel like I'm not being understood. So I'm going to stop trying to explain myself, because I feel like I have tried 4 different examples and I'm still not clear.
Yeah.
And when I say those things, it's not because I think that Jesse is not intelligent to understand, but I'm also probably not being clear in my expression because maybe I'm tired. And I'm like, let me get some rest. I'll just tell him, let me just think on what I'm trying to say, and then I'll get back to you. And sometimes that can happen like 3 days later. And I'm like,
or a week, depending on how intense
depending on what it was, exactly. And I come back and say, I figured out what I was trying to say. And you see, when I figured out what I'm trying to say, it means that now we're at the place where we can really make headway. So it's also important sometimes when someone brings up an issue to you later after the fact, is don't dismiss it. Don't say you should have said it then. Because when emotions are intense.
True. Or things like, bado koko. Like,
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. Respect the fact that bado
Respect the
niko huku.
yeah, but it still
It still
is
hurts. It's still
still
irritating.
hurts.
It's still kuna kauchungu bado.
Mm.
And so make room for that and say, okay, you figured it out. What is it? It was this and this and this and this and this.
Mm.
And in those moments, it's so straight to the point that sometimes we just burst out laughing. Like, oh my gosh, you mean it was this simple? You know what I mean? And so that's the next thing, is that you're coming in with truth. You're coming in with respect. You're coming in with a willingness to understand. Therefore, you have to be calm to listen. You're also wanting to be understood. So be calm so that you can be heard. And if you reach a point where we can't seem to make headway, that's not the point to say this relationship is over.
Yeah.
Or maybe we're just not made for each other.
Compatible.
Maybe we're not compatible. That's the word. We're not compatible. You're like, no, you just reached a stalemate. You know, let's go back, calm down, heal, let me say rejuvenate,
and regroup.
Let's regroup and then come back and say, okay, this is the thing. And so there has to be a willingness that if a conflict has not been resolved, to make space for whenever the other person is ready. To say, okay, fine, when you're ready, I'll be there. You don't have to physically say it, but you have to determine it. The intent, enough cannot be said. Like, you can never reach a point where you see we have said enough about intent, because intent cuts across the board.
Yeah.
The context of an argument, the intent for a conflict, the context and intent of things always matters all the time. And so my intention, because again, remember, our intention was to resolve the issue. So until that intent is fulfilled, you cannot just ignore it or throw it in the back burner.
Yeah.
Now, there are sometimes, like Jesse said, sometimes leaving it can also fix it.
Yeah.
Where you realize, actually, maybe what I had really needed to do was just vent.
Right.
You know, when we came to the conflict resolution, I thought we needed to resolve a thing, but maybe I just needed to express my frustration about a thing.
Yeah.
And Jesse goes like, okay, or he vents and I say, okay. And that was it.
And also there are also cues, in the sense that sometimes in the frustration there is what we call reading the cue. Like
the non-verbal.
The non-verbal is this person speaking to me so that I can find an answer, or just understand that they are frustrated and not give an answer or an advice, right? Or it's not coming at you. You're angry, but
you're not the cause or the
yeah, you're not the cause.
The anger is not being directed to you.
It's not being directed to you, but you see, you are the place where anger can be absorbed in some sense, right? So also having that, well, for me, I just say, are you venting or do you want
right, or do you want some feedback on
advice,
this?
you know?
Yes,
like,
yes, yeah.
So that I know how to engage certain situations.
Yeah. And sometimes the two can be intertwined. It's partially I'm venting, but also I need feedback. And so that is why speaking, using your words helps.
Yeah.
And that is why being calm also helps, because you can ask, okay, do you want me to give you a feedback, or do you just want me to be here and hear you out? You know, because can you imagine someone has come, they've had a frustrating day, and you triggered them, and now they're just venting. So they are venting the frustration from their day, but they're also angry at you or irritated with you for having triggered that frustration that they probably spent all the trip from the office to home. I was trying to just get over this, and now I walked in and you've triggered me. So now you're kind of reliving that whole experience. And so there's two facets to that. And so can you imagine when you're trying to just express and get rid of all that?
Yeah.
Someone goes like, Sasa unataka nifanye nini? You know what I mean? That is adding wood to the fire, man. Just don't throw gasoline at those things. You know what I mean? So if you're talking about conflict resolution, the point is to resolve. The point is to come back to a place of peace, back to a place of harmony, back to a place of understanding, collaboration, acceptance, and back to a place where the relationship can continue. Now, some conflict, as we had mentioned, or maybe I thought earlier, some conflict is not just about day-to-day issues or the differences that we share. Some of those differences actually can be core values to a person, such that, for example, I'm going to use a very crass example. It has been often said in our media, and I think even just as a general culture, and it's a culture, it's a thing in many different cultures in our country, whereby if a woman is sexually abused, she's blamed for it. Therefore, if you're with somebody who is likely to blame you for finding yourself in a very difficult situation, then chances are there are some issues about you being female that you will never receive any empathy on. He will never see that this is a human being hurting. It'll always be this woman and her issues. You understand? So those kinds of things, because of that perspective that this person holds, it means that your fullness as a woman in his sharing the same space with him is never, like, there'll always be a limit to how woman you can be. And I think the same is true when a woman thinks that a man should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It means that anything that falls outside of that structure will not be welcome and will often be pushed aside. And so when it comes to the fundamentals of your existence, and these are the issues that are causing conflict, what happens is that relationship will not be happy. Not because you generally argue about stuff, but because the default setting of this person doesn't give you room to be yourself fully. And one of the reasons why humanity gets in relationships is, you'll hear this a lot, I can just be myself around this person. That is one of the crucial drivers of relationship. You just want to be accepted in your entirety and loved as you are. And so if one or the other party's perspective of, if my perspective as a female, my perspective of men as a female is limited, then that very limitation will impact how I relate with Jesse. I will limit aspects of him or force limitation on him. And that will frustrate him. And I think those are issues that, to be quite honest, you gotta touch on them even before you get serious with somebody. There's ways to
first
probe.
days of dating, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what dating is really for. You need to really just touch these things. And again, the whole thing about truth, it means that someone ought to answer you honestly and say, okay, fine, you know what, I don't think I can be in a relationship with someone if their perspective of women or their perspective of men is like this. You know what I mean? Like, I have this stuff about me, that I can't change. And that is very core to who I am. Therefore, if there's no room for that to exist, then that relationship will be filled with either A, conflict, or B, pretending that you're not. You know what I mean? Like, you limit yourself. And I think this happens a lot with women. We've historically shrunk ourselves to accommodate. You want to be the good Christian girl, you have to be a good wife. All these things that are put on women cause them to often shrink themselves. But the same is also true for guys. The limits that we put on a guy means that he can't fully be himself. Therefore, if you're getting into a relationship with some person or other, there has to be room for them to exist as they are. That means that if we already accept and love my person as they are, it means that when I am resolving conflict, I'm not thinking of this is the end of the relationship. I'm thinking this is just a bump in the road. you know, or maybe we went and we entered some big old hole that we hadn't seen, you know. Look at the hole we've dug ourselves in. So how are we going to get ourselves out? It's not about the relationship is over. It's how can we work through this so that we continue? Because another thing that brings people together, apart from acceptance, is shared. You want that support system, and you have some shared dreams and and you want to see them come true too. You know what I mean? So it's also for that future or the hopes and dreams that you share together that you also do that. You want to resolve the conflict so that there's that continuity. And so this is just, of course, a general overview. There's, I'm sure, sociologists and psychologists and psychiatrists and people who just study humans and human behavior have a lot more to say, and perhaps in real in depth. But for us, we're just touching on, again, like we said, this podcast is about us sharing our experiences and what has worked and why we enjoy our relationship as it is. Truth is necessary. You can't be fake, you can't be false, and you have to learn and grow and develop new skills of being and ways of being so that that relationship can actually last. And when conflict happens, which it will every now and again, then you resolve it rather than just end it, unless, of course, like we said, it's crucial stuff,
it's really,
you know,
really
it's
touching just, and
if it's
creating a different kind of human in you. You don't want that.
So come in with truth, come in with willingness, come in with intent, come in with respect, come in with openness also to hear.
Openness sana sana.
Sometimes you need to hear from your person that you didn't behave well today. You know, nobody wants to hear negative stuff about themselves, but if you're able to hear that from your person,
positive criticism,
and sometimes it's just a blunt, painful truth.
Also.
But you have to say, the person is not coming at you with malice, you see. They're coming at you with love, and I care that you don't continue with this behavior because it's harming you and us together. You know what I mean? And that the openness to hear something bad about yourself and trust that the other person, that's another very fundamental thing. You have to trust that the other person is not out to get you. And that's why resolution cannot be competitive. It can't be about who won the case, because that breaks trust.
Completely does.
It completely shatters trust. Like, you have to be vulnerable. And in order to be vulnerable, you have to trust the person who you're being vulnerable with, that they won't take that stuff and chew up on it and stomp on it and throw it back in your face, kind of thing. You know, you have to be a trustworthy person as well, that you can hold your person's negative energy and negative space without rubbing their face in it, you know. And so that's our take on conflict resolution. I don't know if this has been helpful. Truly, we hope that it has, after all this chit chat. And again, you know, write to us, communicate, comment, like, subscribe, you know, the usual.
And share.
Sana sana poko share. And just give us your feedback. We're happy to engage this conversation. We're happy to really just turn the tide on how can we work on our relationships and make them better and make them more fun to be in. And again, like we said, it doesn't have to be postable. You know, here's the thing about a person in a happy relationship: they don't need to post their happiness. It's there all the time. If someone is in a peaceful relationship, they won't have to post it. You can see it on their faces. You can see it in their gait. You can see it in how they do things, you know. And let us help each other become better to each other, in a world that is really just seeking to ruin everything for everyone on every aspect. There's still a lot of good out there. There's still lots of great relationships out there that are thriving, and we hope that we can make connections with some of these couples and just bring them up on the show and actually have conversations with them so that we can also hear their perspective, you know, and get more insight into all these things that we've been sharing.
Yeah, it's been real, and we're gonna have to catch you on the next one.
Yes, indeedy. Thanks for joining us, though.
All right.
Bye.
Peace.